Hello, and welcome back to Get Ready News. I am David Lindsted and my daughter Emma Lindsted, as Mark is still on assignment in Israel. By the way, if you would like to go to Israel sometime, let us know. We do several tours a year. I think Mark's done, what, four tours?
Yeah, I think he's looking at increasing that to 7 a year.
So if you're at all interested in going to the Holy Land and looking around and traveling with somebody who's been there many, many times and knows everybody and everything there, give us a call. We would be happy to help you out with that. Welcome to our show. Last week we talked a lot about Biden and his incapable cognitive decline and how things are going, and we still see that happening today.
Yeah, that we do. And it's still a pressing worry, and it's still a pressing concern, especially with the election coming up later this year. Yeah,
they've looked at replacing him with Kamala, or however you say her name. And she doesn't do well against Trump. And they've even looked at putting Newsom, Gavin Newsom from California in there. But I don't think he fares as well either.
Yeah, I don't think that there are many candidates who could beat Trump at the moment. I think most people have decided that Trump needs a second chance, and that most people are pretty disappointed with the Democratic Party as a whole at the moment.
Yeah, this is a pretty late date for them to come out and say, yeah, there really is a problem with Biden. And I think people have known this since he was even put in place at the beginning of his term. And they're just now seeing that it's way worse. I mean, I can watch a video from 4 years ago to now, and you can just see an immense decline.
Yes.
As bad as I thought he was then, he's even more so now. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and we kind of didn't get a chance to, was Pride Month. So we're going to look back on Pride Month and do a little bit of talking about it.
Yeah, Pride Month has become a very big issue, and especially LGBTQ stuff has become really big recently, especially within my generation. I'm Gen Z, for people who didn't know that. And I find that most of my friends are either accepting or a part of said community, but I also find that they are appalled with this push that we've been seeing.
Yeah, I find it interesting. The LGB means binary, where you're either male or female, but yet they include all the people that say there is no such thing as just male and female. Kind of a butting of heads there, if you will. I think they're just kind of lumping all these people together, and I think that is something that's going to hurt them in the end. I think there is going to end up being infighting in their own group because all these people can't coexist with other people.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of other branches being made. In fact, the other day I was watching a documentary, and this man brought up fictosexual, being attracted to fictional characters. What a weird thing to just pull out of nowhere. And it's become something that people joke about, making new sexualities or new branches of this. And I sent one to my friend that I thought was funny, and she got so mad at me because she's so deep into LGBT. She was yelling at me over text, and when I said, oh, that was a joke somebody made, she goes, oh. And suddenly I didn't hear from her the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Here we have a slide. I showed us one that had a fewer in it a couple of weeks ago, but this is just showing the many, many different logos of the companies around the world that changed their logo to cater to this minority of people. The thing that I find most interesting is if you're in the Middle East, that logo doesn't change.
I find it interesting that adding on top of that, so many of the people within this community are supporting the Middle East and supporting Palestine, whereas Israel, the one that they are not supporting, has, the biggest Pride festival of Pride Month?
Yeah. Israel is so secular. That's one of the things that shocked me the first time I went to Israel. I went there thinking I was going to see God's people, and I went there and I saw people more secular than people in the United States of America. It was unbelievable to me how secular the Israelis are, even though they still obey the Sabbath and a lot of the laws. There's a lot of kosher laws they still observe.
It's crazy. That was something that I also noticed going there, is I had expected to go to Israel and see, the typical with the ringlets and all of that. And I didn't see that very much. There was like groups of people that were wearing that, and they'd walk down the street, but everyone else looked like somebody you'd see in America, They all looked like the rest of the world.
And those people wearing the traditional garb were shunned. They were kind of like, I guess what we would call like the Amish. We see the Amish, it's cool, we think it's neat, but we don't have anything to do with them. And I feel like that's about the same way with other Orthodox type people in Israel. They're kind of treated the same way. It's interesting. I was looking at this map of all these different logos, and I see one in the middle that has a cross on it. And we're finding that churches are starting to accept this, and this is something we're going to look at the very end of this show. But it really blows me away that would be something the church would accept and allow.
Yeah. And working on Dr. Lindsted's programs, I make his PowerPoints. It's insane the number of videos from churches he can pull that are highlighting LGBTQ and telling people that it's okay and telling people to express themselves like that if they aren't like that. It's absolutely insane just how easy it is to find a video from a church telling you that that's okay.
I agree with the fact that people caught in any sin are still loved people. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't condone the sin that you're doing. The Bible specifically talks against certain sins, and it calls other sins an abomination. And I think God, and this is something I think we can prove from the Bible, that people will have a hotter hell according to what sins they do, and according to what point and how bad they reject God. I think that their hell will be worse. Just like I think people's heavens will be better the more that they follow God on this earth. So here's an interesting one. I think this is a one that you sent me. Set this up for us and tell us about this.
So this man went to Dunkin' Donuts and he ordered 12 dozen just random flavored donuts. And so he gets his 12 dozen donuts, he's headed home, he opens it, and then he finds an LGBTQ flag donut in his box. It's not something that everybody's going to agree with, it's a controversial topic, and yet somebody at Dunkin' Donuts decided to put it in his random donuts box. So he took it back and he explained to the manager, and to my knowledge, he did in fact get it replaced and everything. But it's a sad thing to see happen.
Yeah, I look at that flag, and there's even trans in that flag, and this is just putting it in anybody's thing. What if you were buying these donuts to take to a church or take to a school or something like that? If people want to promote this on their own, it's up for them to do. But not to push it on other people like this. Right.
It feels kind of icky, the fact that he ordered a random dozen and they thought that was something that they should include in it. It wasn't something he specifically asked for, and he gave no indication he'd want that.
Right. Or if they would have said, do you want any Pride donuts or something like that, and he would have the opportunity to say yes or no. It's one of those things of it makes me sick when I see someone who has a business that refuses service to someone who would be against their belief, that we would hold them accountable for not wanting to serve a certain person. But yet here we are doing the opposite of that and forcing that onto somebody else. This is kind of the reverse of that situation.
Yep. And I am glad for this man for being able to go back and tell the manager and say, hey, I didn't like this isn't okay. And getting, I think it said he had a refund, but getting that closure on it. But a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't go back and have to just deal with it.
Yeah. Since we're talking about businesses that have changed their logo, we've had some that have put out short videos. This next video is a video of Lego, I think, that you found for us. And we're going to play this video real quick and let you see this. This is an unbelievable video. There is so much in this video that we could spend an entire show talking about. But we see homosexuality in here. We see furries in here, where people are new craze to dress up like an animal and become that animal and to do horrific things as that animal. We see drag queens in here. We saw men dressed as women. What's interesting is there's some people that I know that are homosexuals, and they said, we wanted to be able to marry for years and years, and people would say, no, you're just opening the door to things that you don't want to open the door to. And he came back and he said, you know what? I wish we never had the ability to get married, because you're right, everything has come through that door.
Yep. And that's something that I was saying towards the beginning of the program is I have a lot of friends who are part of that. It's pretty hard to have people my age and not. And a lot of them will look at stuff like this and they'll go, oh, I don't want that. Or when Disney or big movie companies decide to put a queer person or a person of color or anything like that into a movie without regard to their acting ability or how it fits with the storyline or anything like that, I get a lot of, I wanted representation, but not like this. This is not what I want.
Disney's just doing it to do it. In fact, as much as the Star Wars is kind of a bad story as far as the Force goes, and the thought of the Force, which is not even close to what God is or what the reality is, they've just about tore that franchise to nothing by trying to put all this inclusion in it. I think their last show has lesbian witches in it, and it just doesn't fit in the story at all, but they're trying to force this thing in, kind of like a round peg into a square hole, maybe a square peg into a round hole, because you might be able to get the round one in a square hole, but you just can't force this together and make people swallow it. So they come up with an idea, and this is probably the best idea. If you were going to get something done, this is the idea, and that is to sell the children on. Now, Hitler did this. Hitler took the youth, and we got him in school, and he's brought them up, and they have kind of like a Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts thing over there, and started to indoctrinate them into his idea of the Aryan race. And he told them, your parents are not smart, you're going to have to educate your parents, you need to take over and do that here, and take over. And Nelson Mandela, horrible man, terrible man, and he's praised all the time. He no matter what you decide you think he did for fighting-wise, he was a ruthless man. He did some horrible, horrible things to innocent people. And he says, give me your youth, and I will change the mind of the nations. And that's paraphrased. I'd have to find the exact quote. But this is also being done today by the homosexual gay agenda. And I'm going to play this video. There's two videos on this. The first one is some people protesting. And the second one is an actual male gay choir that's singing this song. And just listen what these people are saying.
We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. Children will work to convert all their sisters and brothers. Then soon we're almost certain your kids will start converting you.
It's just amazing. Here they are singing about that first one. That girl says, we're coming after your children. And then right after that, the guy comes on and he's singing, we're going to convert your children. And he's just the creepiest looking guy. Like he is just an old creepazoid.
Yeah. I look at this and I know that a lot of people in that community will come to you and they'll say, yeah, well, you're talking bad about us, saying that we're coming for your children, that we're acting all deviant like this and we're causing problems. But then you look at content like this and you see where they have said that, and then they continue to make jokes about it as well. And at what point does a joke become a reality?
Yeah. I think that's a way to cover up what you're doing by saying it out loud and kind of making it a hidden thing right under your own nose. I find it interesting that this choir says, we're trying to erase hate. you know. But yet these people would be hateful towards somebody who didn't want to conform to what they said. But yeah, it says, we're coming after your children. Little by little, you'll never notice. And one of these days, those children are going to get to you and change you. Well, I think there's another agenda coming. And I think this is closer than you think. Now, we saw a video where a young lady was taken to prison for praying silently outside of an abortion clinic, and doing some stuff like that. And so now they're wanting to stop people who disagree with them. And here's a guy that's an open homosexual. He's been interviewed for this program, and he's talking about how the people that are against the homosexual community is growing smaller and smaller. And I want you to listen to what he says on this. Here we go.
It's a minority. It's such a minority.
A tiny bunch of little whinging on the wrong side of history, and they'll all go away soon.
We're on the wrong side of history, and we're all going to go away soon. That makes me think that there's an agenda, that there's something out there that is going to come down and cause us some problems.
Well, my question is, if I got up there and I said, people who are gay are all on the wrong side of history and they're all going to go away soon.
You couldn't
Don't
say
take that out of context.
That could really, that would be perceived differently, and there would be a whole different response to that. But I do think about, Mark and I have discussed on here many times, during COVID, they had the camp in Australia. If you had COVID, they sent you this camp. You know, if you break some of the DEI or say something insensitive at your job, they can send you to a reform camp to change the way you think. And I feel like this is kind of what he's saying. He's saying these people are going to be gone soon. These people are going to be gone. There's no one going to stand in our way.
That really does sound like what he's saying. And I understand that he probably just means people who are outwardly against gay people. But it's like you said earlier, you open the door,
Yeah.
and more things come flooding through. What's going to come after saying that this is wrong? You know, what are they going to attack next? Because if you ask me, my firm opinion is that the Bible's next on the chopping block.
Oh, absolutely, and they've already set that up. You know, they passed the bill in the government over here that says that you have to be careful how you say things about Jewish people, because it can be considered hate. It could be considered all sorts of stuff. And so the Bible, the way the Bible reads, can be considered a hate thing. So they've set it up so that you can get in trouble if they wanted to get you in trouble. I think Hitler, I don't know if it was Hitler or who it was, but they said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So there's something they can do and bring against you. And you think about those people that were in January 6th that are in jail. We have little old grandma that was in the White House with the rest of the crowd doing nothing but walking around, and she was guilty enough to be in prison.
Well, I look at the kids that were on scooters driving over the pride flag, and they accidentally left skid marks, and now they're in jail. And another guy that did donuts on a pride flag has a federal offense against him.
Yeah, that's absolutely silliness that would be. Now, if that was a Christian, if that was a Bible chalked on the ground or something, no one had said anything. It'd have been no big deal.
Christians would have said, "Oh, that's rude. We don't like that you did that," and we'd have been told, "Suck it up."
Yeah.
That's just how life is.
Now, we talked about how you open that door, and all of a sudden everything else comes flooding through. Well, now we've opened that door, and now we are accepting of trans people. People who believe that they are not born the sex that they were born, and they change their idea, and men become women, and women become men. And now we are getting men that are starting to win contests. What is this contest that you found for us?
So this is the Miss Maryland contest. So the prettiest woman in Maryland. And the prettiest woman in Maryland is a man.
Is a man. You know what gets me about that is we see, I think one year who is the trans woman that's in government, works in the military. Anyway, he or she, I can't keep it straight. He was over United States Health, and she won Woman of the Year. Now, they always complain about how this is a patriarchal society, but yet men are better women than women, apparently.
So I just want to say, as a woman, I am very not okay with it at all, you know? I find it quite humorous, as much as it upsets me, because I don't prescribe to the whole women are oppressed, think they're better. I don't really ascribe to that, but I do think that it's being pushed now, you know? I feel like women are being pushed to be masculine, and men are being pushed to be feminine. And I feel like they're taking away a woman's power, which is her femininity, in my opinion, you know? A woman has her words and her mind, and women are much more cunning in that way, whereas men are much more physically strong.
Yeah.
And they're taking that away from both genders.
Yeah, and it's funny. I drive down the road and I look over and I see this big, huge dually truck, and there's a little woman driving it. And I look over and I see this little kind of Honda Matrix, and there's a guy in it. And it's like, you know, back when I was a kid or younger, you know, men drove big trucks and women drove little cars, you know, and that's the way it was. And it's just almost like we've done a complete swap. And I think there's two reasons for this. And, you know, being that you're female, you can probably answer me on this, but I think that when men are not masculine, when they become what we would call a soy boy today, or someone who's a beta male, I think there's a void in leadership, and women go to fill that void because they want a leader. They need leadership, and so they go into that void to be a leader, and the man's just as apt to say, okay, you go ahead and lead and just do it. You know, and I think that we see a reversal of roles because we're telling men they're toxic because you're men.
Yeah. Now, I can't directly quote this, but Uncle Mark has quoted our great aunt as saying that she thinks that women aren't put in a leadership position within the church because then the men would sit there and let them do everything and not take part.
I don't know that I disagree with that. Yeah. I think that men and women are built different. Men are designed to lead, and women are designed to fill in the parts that men miss. And together we are a complete unit. But when it's out of order and women try to lead, men don't fill in on the parts that are missing. They would just as soon sit down and do nothing. So we see a complete abandonment, really, of what both people should be doing and how chaotic the world is now.
Yeah, and it's abundantly clear because I feel like a lot of women are the fine, if you won't do it, I'll do it type people. But I don't feel like I ever meet men who are like that, you know?
No.
If something doesn't get done, it goes right over a guy's head. But women will sit there and they'll go, oh, that's out of place. And they'll keep an eye on whatever's out of place and they'll keep thinking about it. Whereas a guy will go, is that out of place?
Well, I think that the feminism movement, and don't misunderstand that feminism is not what most people think it is. It's not for equality. It's for superiority of women over men. And I think that they have really thrown women into a bad spot. And they've put men in a bad spot in the same way. And by abandoning the way God had designed everything has just really burdened the family. We don't see hardly any families anymore. We see divorces all the time, and we don't see harmony. Now, when the father is doing the things that he should be doing and the mother's doing things that she should be doing, you find a household that runs a lot better than the opposite. And men have this ability, this want to provide and to protect, and women find all the spaces that men are crude on and make them nice and round and make it's just a complementary role. And somehow feminism has told women they're inferior to men, where the Bible actually puts women and men at the same level.
Well, we've also been told that purity and keeping yourself for marriage isn't necessary anymore. And I was watching a video the other day, and this woman was showing her her boyfriend of like 8 years. She has 3 kids with this guy. She's at Walmart showing him $68, $128 rings, and she's going, that's pretty cheap. You could get me a ring. And he goes, I haven't found wife material yet. because she has given up on these morals.
Yeah.
She's given him kids without expecting anything from him. And if I was a man, I don't know that that's something I'd want to marry.
Yeah,
You know?
I watch some of these programs, and there's these girls talking about what they call their body count, how many different people they've slept with, and it's kind of funny, they say, oh well, we do this because the men do it, and I think you'll find that most men joke about something they never did, and men are not the way you think they are, but if given an opportunity, they'll do anything. Now, what's interesting is when the guys get up there to say what they like, they look for a woman that has little to no body count. They don't want, women think it's something prideful that's what men want, and they don't. Not even men want that for themselves. So I think everybody's been kind of sold a bill of goods. This next picture is what really gets me. It was kind of like that one logo in the middle. It looked like a cross to me. That was a rainbow cross. And here we have a church inside a pride parade saying, God so loved the world. Now, I don't disagree with that. God did love the world. God loves people who are committing homosexuality sin. And He wants you to come to Him and to seek forgiveness, and He will save you. But He does not condone homosexuality.
Yeah. And I want to tack on there that I would say that He expects Christians to treat them with respect and treat them kindly as well. Not to berate them for the sin or to be the one to judge them. Because that's God's job. God's already got that in the works. He's already planning it. It's not our position. But I just wanted to tack that on because I find a lot of people don't understand that it's not our place to be outwardly attacking it.
Right. It's not our place to be pointing out the shortcomings of others because guess what? Even though I'm saved and I'm a Christian, I still have shortcomings. Now, it is okay for us to tell each other, hey, I see this. But this is going a step beyond. This is actually embracing this. And this is what I would call loving somebody to hell. So
Yeah.
The thing that gets me more than anything is if you look in the background, it says, for God so loved the world, and it's on a rainbow. And the homosexuals have adopted the rainbow as their symbol. The unfortunate thing is God gave that rainbow to mankind as a promise that He would not destroy the entire world with water again. So, thank you for your time, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll hope to see you next time.